A warm welcome to another edition of the Magpie Circle podcast, and a very special guest we've got today, a candidate to be one of the Mr. Notts County people, such as his longevity with the club. Very warm welcome to Mike Edwards.
Hi, Paul. You okay? All good?
Thank you very much indeed, Mike. Your stats, career at Notts, extremely impressive. I mean, to rattle a few of these off, 350 appearances, 30 goals. And believe it or not, in the last 50 years, you are the 10th highest appearance maker for the club. And here's another one, the 26th highest scorer for the club in the last 50 years. Now, I'm not quite sure what that says about our strikers, but I prefer to think it says more about your ability to score from set pieces. First game, August the 7th, 2004, drew 1-1 at home to Chester. Last game, November the 26th, 2016, lost 3-2 at Barnet. Tremendous servant to the club. We're going to shine a torch on both behind the scenes and on the pitch over the next 45 minutes to an hour or so. Let's start off. Tell me what Notts County means to you, because it's been a huge part of your life, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. And going back from the start, I was passionate about football. I was a local lad at Hull. Wanted to play for my local team there. It was sort of a dream to do. Family was all from Hull, nowhere else really. So that became a big part of my life, sort of 7-8 years there. And then I'm more accustomed to being at one place. And so I sort of left, obviously, Hull under a few little bad terms, which I didn't quite like. Obviously, I had a little spell Colchester and Grimsby, but then found Notts. And I just remember turning up first time, seeing the stadium, seeing the people there, chatting to the staff that were there. And yeah, it just sort of really took to me. I think the sort of Hull was my beginning of my journey, but when it comes to Notts, I mean, my family's sort of, my kids sort of, raised here. The time I was here, spent here, it's more definitely like a family. And it's become like a second home, which I know in other interviews I've always said it's become a second home because of my time here. The people that were at the club, the friendly people I've met. I know a lot of people have come and gone, whether it's managers or players, but I've sort of been a little bit of a constant here because I just loved it. I think it was when I came in, it reminded me of Hull at the time because they were building something new. Fans were really taking to it and building on and seeing it. It felt so familiar of my time there to being here with the great stadium and the potential that could possibly happen there. I know they came down when I signed. They'd just come down. I'd just come down with Grimsby. Obviously, I'd been a bit of an unknown really to Notts fans really because I think they'd come out of administration, and I know what it's like with football clubs. They expect, say, bigger signings or, do you know what I mean, big names to some degree, sort of for the lower leagues, and being a bit of an unknown maybe. But hopefully, yeah, for me, my career has been about winning people over and just being wholehearted and just being honest with performances. So it's one of them. It's a special place for me because I've had great memories, and yeah, it's a big part of my life. Still now, obviously, always speak to the people that are there, looking for the results, and obviously for my kids as well. And I've got one who loves football and one who hates football, and the one that loves it, yeah, he's always asking, "How's Notts got on? Can we go down?" I'm like, "Of course we can." And it'll always be there for me, and yeah, happy to stay sort of close and local to Nottingham.
So your young one's definitely a Notts fan, not a Forest fan, or maybe a Hull fan.
He's actually an Everton fan, believe it or not. So he's his best mate at school when he was 4 was an Everton fan, and so yeah, he's unfortunately he's an Everton fan, but he just loves football. So unfortunately, I go to all the local teams. He supports all the local teams, but yeah, Notts. Obviously, the time he had the last few years when I was there, obviously with Kev and not getting to know Kev's lad Sonny. Yeah, he sort of saw a lot more to football, of the dressing rooms, being involved with the lads, training. He got involved a lot because he just really took to football. So Notts will always have a little special place in his heart for him. So it's definitely his number 2 after Everton, I'm afraid.
In total, 14 years with the club. You had a slight spell away at Carlisle. I mean, when we talk about managers, I think you were saying a little bit earlier, something like 40 managers in your career. Over half of those came at Notts. And I mean, when you read back these list of names, I mean, it kind of shows that being a manager of Notts County in this millennium is not a secure profession for a start. I mean, it was Gary Mills that signed you. I mean, rattled these off: Ian Richardson, Good John Thor Dawson, Steve Thompson, Ian McParland, Hans Backer, Dave Kevin and Michael Johnson, Steve Cottrell, Craig Short, Martin Allen, Carl Heggs Caretaker, Keith Curl, Mickey Housel, Paul Hart, Moniz, Jamie Fullerton, Mark Cooper, John Sheridan, Kevin Nolan, probably others I've mentioned, not mentioned there. I mean, what's that been like under all of those managers?
I think you're just taking about a full hour up there just naming them.
I know.
I know. To be fair, I can probably say it more now. The fact that I think this basically should have got rid of me sooner, because obviously they'd have me and then they get the sack. So I'm good at attracting new managers. Do you know what I mean? So with say 40 of my career roughly, it's a bit too many. Yeah, I mean, people always talk about the year. I mean, I'll jump on a bit, but going on about the year we got promoted and why do we get promoted? And for me, it was having the consistency there. As daft as it sounds that we maybe had a couple of caretaker managers, obviously permanent managers, so about 5 managers that year. I think the thing that stayed constant was the coaching staff, and we never actually changed the way we played. And when obviously when Ian came in, he had a set way he wanted to play. I think he adjusted it a little bit at the start, but then that season before we got promoted, he'd sort of put the wheels in motion of how we're going to play with him and obviously Dave Kevin, Tommy and Drapes. This is how we're going to play. And he sort of gradually had the time to say, get rid of the players who couldn't quite grasp and do what he wanted them to do. Bit of trial and error with some players he brought in, didn't quite work. So the season after, he was able to bring some of them players in. And he just was given time. For me, I've always said, I think you go at Hull when I was there, we had this similar sort of process where the manager actually had a lot more money at the time. So the owner, should I say. And he was able to bring players in and get rid of players, bring players in, get rid of players. A small version, say, of Chelsea, say, with Abramovich. For me, I think if you haven't got the money, you need to give managers time to build that process. And it does. It can't be done in a year. It can't be done in 2 years. I always laugh when I hear the old spiel of owners go, oh, 5 years we're going to be in the Championship. It's like, no, why are you trying to do that? For me, a 5-year plan is actually getting your youth team where, do you know what, giving a manager 5 years to actually be safe in that league, build something, and then hopefully, you know, in that 4 or 5 years time or 3-4 years time, youth players who say 13, 14 have that chance to learn how that first team player plays. And so instead of, he can come in and play right back, he can come in and play centre midfielder. So you've got 18, 19-year-olds learning the way the club plays as a philosophy. And then you can, do you know what I mean? From then, obviously youth team players, you either sell him on and you invest back in the youth, or do you know what? You've got a player in the club who's not on the skyrocketing wages, he's actually on a lower wage because he's learning his trade, but you've got a good player. And so for me, that's a financial way for a club to build. And that is, for me, is putting foundations in. And I think all the managers, I think they're always looking for something, whereas just give them time. And it's always been a little bit of a bugbear for mine. It's one sense because it's been hard. I've had to prove myself, obviously, 22 times, whatever it was, to some degree. But in my nature, that's what I do. It was I could adapt and try and obviously do my best to try and win a manager over to play me, because I think probably my whole career out of 40, I've had two that would play me from the start. The rest I've had to prove myself. But that's, as I say, it's something what I've dealt with.
It's an unfair question to say who's the best, but were there certain managers that particularly impressed you with the way they went about their jobs?
I think they've all got different elements. Like you say, you couldn't really fully pick ones out. I think the big game changer for myself personally, who I completely changed my game about 27, 28, which was Dave Kevin as a coach. I mean, my good mate, obviously Laurie Dudfield. Played with him at Hull when I was 21. Obviously played a little bit with him at Notts for a couple of years. And then I remember him coming to watch me when I was about 30, and he said on my days, he spoke to another lad who we were good friends with back in Hull, and he was chatting about me, and he said, oh mate, you've got to see Mikey play. He said, he's completely different to how he was back then when he was 20. And for me, it was, Dave opened my eyes of how to play centre-half a little bit better. And yeah, I used to get stuck in, tackle, head it, kick it, that side of it. That side I always was instilled in me. But I think the playing side of it, he helped me change my game to actually be a better footballer and understand my role a bit better. And actually, it's little simple things, whether it's dropping off an extra 5 yards to give myself more time space. Because yeah, I know I wasn't the greatest player on the ball. I was not bad, but that was my weakness. But he helped me develop that and get better at that much more. And yeah, I just saw the game completely different after sort of the way he helped me. And I think manager-wise, I know the promotion year we needed Steve Cottrell to come in. I remember being on the training ground first day, and obviously was close to the getting automatic, and was, you know what I mean, was for the top 3. And he had a meeting with us on the training ground, and he said, "Look, lads, we're going to go win the league." I said, "We're winning the league," and we stood around there thinking, "Yeah, we'll take top 3, third, second, right." And nobody said that, and he just went, "No, no, 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 no." He said, "Lads, get it out of your heads. We're not finishing third. We're not finishing second. We're finishing first. That's what we're going for. That is what we're going to do. We're not finishing anywhere else. Get that in your brains now." And it was like, Christ has just read my mind. You know what I mean? And yeah, he sort of was a ship that was doing okay, but we needed that sort of somebody to grab it by the reins and drive us through. So, and again, like psychologically wise, he was great in the fact of, I think we played Accrington towards the end, and we've gone in. I think it was I'm playing centre half for Graham Lee, and we're thinking, oh, we've done all right. We're all right. We've done all right today, even though it was a bit of a rough game. I think it was either 1-0 down or it was tight, and I think the centre forwards were giving the ball away. We've come in the dressing room, and he absolutely roasted me and Spike. Absolutely nailed us, was on us, you two, hammering us away like that. I'm sat there thinking, I thought we were doing all right. And it was when he G'd us up, went on, obviously won the game. And he had them elements where there's times as well, I remember Port Vale away, half time has come in, and obviously, it wasn't going so well. I'm thinking, oh, we're going to get a roasting here. Like me and Spike had not, we've been all over the shop, and it was, expecting a roast, and he actually didn't. It was the other way around, you know what I mean? It's psychological aspect of the game. He knew when people needed a roasting, and he knew when, it was actually they need a bit of a pat on the back or a little bit of rub to get them going again. So I think that side of it of his man management was fantastic, side of it. And like I say, I wish we'd had him again for a full season to be under him. So no, obviously, I really took to him and was great. I think football wise, when you talk about like obviously Ricardo Muniz, as much as I know with fans, some people take it or liked him, didn't, maybe a little bit like Marmite. For me, I think it's at the start, I'm thinking, wow, this is what's going on here, completely different. But I mean, he was talking about playing little box fours from the back, full-backs coming round, doing this, playing 2-3-5, all this stuff, what's going on. And it was literally probably about a year. I remember it was probably a year before Pep started talking about it and going on about these little full-backs coming and doing it. And it's like, he was literally ahead of his time, if that sort of makes sense, because everybody raves about Pep and all that side of it, how he's trying to play and doing that aspects, but he was trying to do it with us in obviously a League Two team. And I'm thinking, he's gradually starting to learn as the process going along. He couldn't quite do that with us, if that makes sense, because we're not quite there, if that makes sense. We're there for a reason, because we haven't got the quality of Premiership players, European players to some degree, but his ideas and his passion for football was unbelievable. We'd have meetings at a hotel Friday nights. We'd talk about the team, go through it all, and he just would say, lads, if you want to watch, he'd put a Cruyff DVD on, he'd put, do you know what I mean, players from the past on, Maradona stuff, and literally you'd be there. And this shows you a little bit, I think, how football's gone a little bit, where all the old players, I say old players myself, sort of late 20s, 30s, we're all sat there watching it, just like mouths open, just thinking, loving this. All your young players disappeared and go off the dome and didn't have that appreciation to sort of watch it. Some stayed, I'm not saying all, but I think I'm towards the end of my career, I'm sort of seeing that, where I think there's sort of a status thing, I think, with some of the young players of sort of, do you know what I mean? That it's not that they don't appreciate football or what the previous players have done, but I think there's an aspect of it of how to look to be a footballer, and not that sort of hard graft or that element of actually you've got to do all this hard work and appreciate actually the elements of the older players. But no, I mean, obviously, Ricardo is a character in one sense, but for football and his passion is sort of it was great. It was right up there, to be fair, but just needed a little bit more maybe a little bit more guidance, I think, under of what the leagues are like. But I mean, to be fair, I watched some of the football we played under him at times at home, was what I thought was brilliant. Do you know what I mean? At times, yeah, it's one of them. You don't need. Again, it's a bit of time for him, but at certain times when you're, like you say, you're at a Bristol Rovers away or an Accrington, it's a different ball game. Do you know what I mean? At League Two, but no, as I say, all the managers, pretty much all the managers I've got on with, got great. As I said, I've always had to prove myself, which isn't too much of a problem, because it's been instilled for me from literally from my days at Hull, really. So it's, but yeah, it's some good times, and obviously more recently with Kev, great man manager. Lent lots off him, to be fair. And again, I think the big asset he brought in was obviously Richard Thomas, because again, like I spoke about Dave Kevin, Richard Thomas, his detail for football and his knowledge is second to none. It's even now, obviously, I still speak to Tomo now, and Mike, for me as a person and as a coach, I've come on so much more. I developed through Dave Kevin and the ideas what he had, because he was a really good coach, and then Tomo's gone again. He's on sort of another level, and for me, I've said to him, it's like he should. Well, I know he's obviously 23s at Watford at the moment, but he could easily coach in a Premier League team, not a problem, because he's that good. His eye for detail and the way we want to play, and I think Kevin Tomo was a great combination. Do you know what I mean, towards the end, and weirdly, as I say, I left under my own accord. And I thought, you know what, it's in good hands here. It's gonna go. You know what I mean? It's got a chance to go somewhere. As in with the management structure, anyway.
What do you think went wrong?
Well, I think we all know what went wrong. I think, I mean, obviously, I'd sort of left. I think you know what I mean? From what I hear, I think some players were, again, brought in what they wanted, as in their sort of players, and then I think other people were probably bringing in. Bringing in players what they thought wanted, and that's always a bad sign for me. It's a case of, well, if you're not on the manager's list, or the manager has a set sort of way, I think I look at it maybe on a bigger scale. From watching football this past year, I look at like Aston Villa. I think he's probably, you know what I mean, I think the manager there has had players brought in through other parties who he maybe doesn't want, and yet, as I say, I think this year he's been allowed to sort of bring in players that are his players, basically. I think it's possibly the same. I think we're not. Is where, yeah, I think it's one of them. Like, I think just off before we started, we talk about owners, and I think some owners obviously think that they can do it all. Yeah, I think for me, for a football club, it's, for an owner, you hire a manager to manage and do the job, so they know what they need. The manager will then hire a recruitment person to get the people they need. They hire a coach to do the coaching, what they want to do. Fitness coaches, to get a fitness coach in who they need and the elements they need. All them departments, I think, for me, to get a club successful, trust is the big thing. And as I was saying, I think if you take over a club, I think just leave it to the people to be. You've got to trust, like I say, your manager, that they're knowing the job, and I think after that you let them be. I mean, I know that obviously, I know with the Trues, when they're in charge, there's good elements from the fans' perspective and bad ones. But you know what? For me, they were brilliant. They trusted their staff to do their jobs. They would hire the manager, and he would hire the people that he needed to help. I thought they brought the club the inner side of it, of the staff who works. You know what I mean? From the commercial guy to the people working the stands, to that, it was their family, if that made sense, and they looked after them. And I know at the times when I know we had the adversity where, we didn't know if we was getting paid or not. The great thing for them was and we understood that and respected that as a player, with the fact that they looked after the staff of, like you say, the guy who's sweeping the stands, like you say, he's earning a lot less than a player. He's like, no, we're looking after the staff first. And then, you know what, as players, we'll obviously look after you next. And as players, we can accept that, because obviously for us, yeah, we like to think we've looked after our money over time, but it's more important that, you know what, the guy looking after the bar who gets £5 or £6 or £10 an hour, he needs that money. It's more essential than for us. And so they were great with that, in the fact of, you know what I mean, the family was their family, and they did. Yeah, I know a lot of chopping and changing at times, but as I said, they gave the backing and managers and the coaches, they gave them, do you know what I mean, they let them do it, get on with it, to be fair, which for me is the way it sort of should be.
Okay, very interesting, very interesting. And I didn't know any of the stuff about Moniz and that. Very interesting. When you first came to Notts, you kind of had to battle back from adversity from an injury perspective very early on, and you also had I think a very serious injury you picked up on a Cornish pre-season tour as well, didn't you? So there were some challenges for you early on in your career at Notts.
Yeah, injuries part and parcel of the game to some degree. Yeah, I remember it well. Obviously, the cup game against West Ham. It's funny though. I was actually, I don't know. In my head. It may happen, may not happen. But we did all the team shape, and I was actually playing centre mid. So I was playing centre mid, and it was a thing in my head where, probably from being old school, this small little thing where if I was playing centre mid, I was fine playing in moulded boots, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I play moulded boots, and not a problem. I was playing centre mid, had them there, and then last minute, Julian Bode, like I say, pulled up, said his calf was sore, pulled out of it. Do you know what I mean? Said, "Oh no, I can't play." So that's fine. So I ended up going back playing centre half. Now as a centre back,
you want the studs. You want the studs,
yeah.
don't you?
Yeah. And so I remember it happening well, and it's obviously I think Zamora's gone to get the ball, and I've gone there to nick the ball in front of him, planting my foot down, and I've twisted straight away instead of obviously turning properly, because I've sort of only half nicked the ball, so I've gone to push off, and I remember just hearing my knee pop, and sort of thinking, wow, into the first season, and I've done my knee type thing like that. So it was a bit of a, as I said, coming in and signing, and as I said, I wasn't a big name or anything like that. It was a bit. I'm thinking, it's a bit tough. I mean, obviously for me, on the personal side of it, knowing I had another year, all right, I've got to shift my goals and get myself fit. And I was lucky where the physio at the time, the late John Asden, a good friend, was a good friend of mine. I'd sort of done a physio course when I was like 18, and he was actually my tutor at the time. And so I knew him and knew he was good. And to be fair, he was brilliant. Long-term injuries, it was absolutely fantastic, and pushed me hard, pushed me well. Gary Mills supporting me was brilliant. He was obviously gutted, when it happened. And then, but again, I know little things as well. I obviously, to be fair, with John being at the links he had at Forest, they were brilliant as well. They said, look, if any of your players want to come and help, use like the gyms we've got or anything like that, need any help, do you know what we can do? And so at times, like you say, help from the Forest guys. You know what I mean? I know it's obviously not a great word to use with in relations to Notts County, but them relations between the clubs away from it was sort of always been there. I mean, it was similar with my ankle. When I dislocated my ankle, broke my leg. Obviously, it was down at Truro, which again is an ironic sort of story that I sort of do a bit of work for them now. But I remember we played Forest pre-season, and I've come in on crutches, and Colin Calderwood stood outside the away dressing room sort of an hour or so before kickoff. And literally, I've never met him before. I've only sort of maybe played against him or his teams. And he came straight over to me and was like, "Mike, anything you need, anything you want, please just you know what I mean, contact me, contact the club." I've done the same thing, you know what I mean, dislocated my ankle as well. I said, it's tough, but keep your head, keep going. But anything you need, just let me know. And that's the beauty of football. That's why I love it so much, because you meet a lot of people, whether players, whether managers, or even people off the pitch. Sort of networking is great, and people just they come together, and you meet a lot of characters, and that's why I get on with a lot of people, because I just think they're passionate about that football. It's their heart, their passion. Yeah, they do different walks of life. Do you know what I mean? They do different jobs, and I find it interesting to talk about what they do. And the trouble is, at times, some people just want to talk about football, which I get, which is great. But everybody comes together and pulls together, and that's the thing. Again, talking about Notts is a lot of people they come together. The fans that they've got there, different fans they have, they're from different walks of life and do different things. But it's great that a lot of times they come together through, and which they have done through good times and bad times.
I mean, testimony to you, after the injury at West Ham in the first season, you came back the following season and you played literally every single game, didn't you? I think it was 50 matches, League and Cup, played every one of them. And I think that was the season when there was a mathematical chance Notts could have dropped out of the league, wasn't it? And it was 2 down, and it ended up being 2-2 in the final game. Yeah.
No, it was. I mean, that was obviously under Gudjon. That was interesting times. But again, it's some really good ideas at times. But I know people talk about what do you enjoy about games or seasons when they've gone, and weirdly enough, that game is actually still it's a good memory. It's a good memory because as a player, you want to be successful always. That's the first and foremost. But as well, when a season pans out, and I always say be judged at the end of the season rather than sort of 10 games in, 5 games in. It's about get to the end of the season and then reassess. And staying up on last game of the season, the crowd's buzzing, and it's one of them. It's intense. You get a little bit of nerves, because there's something to play for, and it's personal pride. It's clubs. Keeping the club safe. The fans, it means that so much to them, and so they are actually really good games to play in. They're nervous as hell. My wife and my parents were having kittens, like, every time you touch the ball, you can tell they're just having a heart attack. But you want to play under that pressure, and that's a great way to emulate it. And I always remember, it's great game to play in. As I said, I always remember because it's weird, because obviously Casper was in goal against us for Bury, and I always remember I think it's for the second goal for the penalty. The ball's come out to the edge of the box, and I've sort of stayed up front to try and get as a goal, and I've absolutely belted a left-footed shot, which must have bobbled about 6 times. Do you know what I mean? Getting to the goal, and then he's gone down, palmed it, and then Chris Palmer's nicked in and got the penalty. So I always, when Casper was obviously back up, when obviously we played him later on, I obviously given him a little bit of stick, saying, couldn't hold my left-footed power driver, could you? Do you know what I mean? So it was it was just ironic that I never. Do you know what I mean? I knew then it was quite a raw keeper, and do you know what I mean? I knew sort of the speculation about him sort of going to be going places like to Man City and stuff, and it's surprising. Like I say, he's done absolutely brilliant to do. Get to where he's gone, and it was great to see the difference between him then and then playing with Notts, and then again moving on to how he's doing now. It's fantastic to see.
You mentioned you nearly scored against Casper, but for a centre half, 30 goals. Was there a science to it? Was there a knack to it? Because, I can remember seasons when we were really struggling to score, and often the most likely chance we would score would be you scoring from a set piece.
Yeah, I was just quite good at heading the ball, really. So it was. I think it's one of them. I think two things. I didn't score many at my career at Hull, but I never actually went up front for about 80, 90 games. So I used to be always at the back. And then I remember then my first ever goal I scored. I think I'd been allowed to go up for corners for a couple of times, and I literally scored about 4 goals from free kicks and corners in about the space of about 6 games. So I was allowed to go up for a little bit, but then I got reverted to staying back again, and I was up and back. But I think we're not. For me, it was. I think for me as a defender, if it's in the box, I'm trying to clear it. If that makes sense, I'm trying to get the first touch. I would flip it the other way around. So when I was attacking, I actually learned to sort of trust my teammates who were, whether the lads that stayed back, whether it's the midfielders edge of box. And so I'd go attack the ball, and then I'd always think 2 jobs. If I couldn't get to the ball, the next thing I'd do would be either wipe the keeper out, or I'd stop 2 or 3 of their players from getting the ball, if that makes sense. So actually I'm trying to take out 2 or 3 players, so hopefully somebody else scores off the back of it. And then it's just about trying to keep the ball alive. But my attribute, which I had from being a young kid, which from my dad, taught me how to head the ball properly, and get your timing right. And I was always from being like 11, 12. I know you've got to be careful heading the ball nowadays, but it was something that he taught me really, really well. And it wasn't going out heading 50, 40-yard balls. It would just be little, just the technique and get my timing. And for a centre back, I'm short. You know what I mean? I'm just about I'm 6'1". And that's always going to be a little bit of downfall. So I had to jump and time it and get my timing right. And so that's little tricks of the trade. Like I say, I remember Les Brad saying to me, he said, you never tend to really lose a header, goal kicks and stuff. I said, well, I'm quite short as well, aren't I? So, well, yeah. And he used to watch me because you say you just do a little bump, don't you, just as about to head it. I went, yeah, I have to sort of bump the centre forward and literally then head it. And so it got it to an art where he's about ready prepped to jump, and I'd literally just bump him and then I'd drop off and head it. And it's weird. He said, can you teach that? I was like, I don't know, I've never really tried it. Do you know what I mean? But it's just something I had to adapt and do. Because as I said, the good attribute for myself was I was great at adapting to my surroundings or working out players. Do you know what I mean? If you're playing up against a centre forward or a midfielder or a winger, I was great at, first 5 minutes, he might have me on toast a little bit at times, but then, you know what, the next 85 minutes, I'd worked him out. And that was a great part of my game, which I don't think, you never talk about that really as being an attribute, but it's something that I was quite good at doing, at adapting. So, but yeah, I was pleased with my record anyway, because my my little man's, as I said, my youngest stayed and he loves football, and it's like that. I said, well, you've got a few goals to try and score now, haven't you? If you make it as a pro, set the target. So if you can make it, then it's you've got at least 30, 40 goals to try and beat.
Very interesting and educational. I mean, we had Michael Johnson on a previous podcast, and clearly he's smaller than you, and he spoke in not dissimilar type, talking about how he had to perfect the art of timing and the positioning of how and when to make the jump to be able to compete with centre forwards who were significantly taller than him. You've obviously come up against, when you were playing at centre half, all sorts of centre forwards. I mean, were there any that you thought, I really do not like playing this guy? Were there some that we think, it's like the Sunday morning mentality, thinking, oh, I've got him today? Or what was that like?
I enjoyed everybody. I think, weirdly enough, the bigger lads I loved playing against, because you could just absolutely go in and smash them. You know what I mean? And then I'm expecting to get smashed as well, and that's what part of the game I really loved. I used to, so when Bournemouth were down in the obviously same league as us, Steve Fletcher, big Fletch. So I remember we'd be playing games, and I'd be, I'd be nipping him, we'd pushing him, or I'd be doing a little nudge, and he'd be getting, and all the game he's getting frustrated, and he'd be swinging his elbow at me, off the ball, like, he'd be chewing at me, and we'll be back, having a right go at each other all the time. And probably about we played about 4 times one season, but I know the previous seasons we played against him, it was constant. And then I remember about the third game we played against him that season. We had a right proper ding dong, me and him smashed each other all the time. Coming off a bit black and blue. And then we was walking off after the game, and somebody put their arm around me and went, "Mate, I love playing against you, because do you know what?" He said, "You wind me up. Do you know what I mean? You make it horrible for me." He said, "I hate playing against you, but I love playing against you, because you know what? I smash you, you get up, you smash me back." He said, "There's none of this fanning around. We just literally just go hell for leather at each other." He said, honestly, "I really appreciate you as a defender." I said, "Well, mate," I said, "again, it's like, as a centre forward, do you know what I mean? I like it because I can get stuck into you, do you know what I mean? Get my time off you and stuff, and yeah, just have a good old fashioned battle, do you know what I mean?" So the big lads like that, I loved playing against. It is good. It's more the little whippets that are a little bit more of a nightmare, but again, because obviously, again, I wasn't the quickest over, do you know what I mean, over a certain pace. I worked on short little steps. So my first sort of 4 or 5 yards, actually my little, or probably short now, 1 or 2 yards, and body positioning I worked on a lot to get a little bit better at that, to move. But yeah, if it's a big up and out, you're going to struggle. But I'd either go tight, so that actually, as it played into them, I just hit them hard, or like I said, I just had to time it and read the game to sort of come off, just to drop off a little bit sooner. But that's what, as I said, it's part of the game of reading the game, which for me is a massive asset, which will help kids going forward.
Would you have ever come up against Lee Hughes in terms of being on opposite sides?
I don't think I did. I think he a couple of times he was a couple of times. I think in games, I don't think he played. If that made sense, like he was either suspended or he was rested. Training. I mean, if you talk about it, I mean, I was sparring against him in training all the time. So yeah, he was, I say, one of the most. Yeah, you knew if he was going for a goal, you'd probably put your house on him scoring like pretty much 90% of the time. Do you know what I mean? It was just one of the best natural finishes I've sort of seen, really. A handful. I've seen him in training. Weirdly, he probably wasn't as charging round as much, probably because of the age. I'm not saying his age, that his legs have gone, and it's always a myth I like to dispel about that. Your legs never go as you get older. People say your legs go. They're not gone. All it means is that, which I found, is that you can't play Saturday, Tuesday. You can play Saturday to Saturday, but trying to play that extra game on a Tuesday, that's where you feel a little bit. So I think in training, he would literally, not goal hang to some degree, but he would look to be behind my back line. And I'm trying to play a high line, and the game you're playing or training game you're doing, there's no offside, so he's 5 yards behind me, and I'm like, use it, come on. Do you know what I mean? They just have to think it over to you, and then you tap it in and score. And it's, but yeah, it was great to have, because you know what, he's one of them where you'd rather have him in your team than, like you said, be up against him, because you just know, again, you're in for a torrid time, and he's more mobile, so he'll run around, he'll be aggressive, so you know you're in for a battle, and if he was playing up against them. And so for us, it was great having him up there. So yeah.
I mean, Lee, he's a standout among the many, many teammates you would have had playing for Notts. But I mean, are there any that might surprise fans listening or watching this podcast in terms of, teammates at Notts who you thought, crikey, this guy's got it all, unbelievable skill or whatever, but for whatever reason, maybe didn't quite go on and do what you thought they were capable of?
I think in some sense, one that maybe went and surprised me is maybe the other way, where actually he has gone on and done unbelievable, is obviously Dave McGoldrick. We took him on loan early doors, and lovely lad, great lad, and like you say, but you could see again he was quite raw when we had him, and so seeing what he's done now and how he's pushed himself, it just shows you that. I think with any club, you get young lads that maybe get a year pro, 2 year pro. Is actually, do you know what? They're still learning the game. It's changed so much now from me when I was 16. Then I was playing reserve games against established pros for a full season, and so my learning of how to play the game against pros was accelerated because I was playing against them. Yeah. I was training with them. Nowadays, it's changed where you've got your youth team, you've got your 2018s, you've got your 23s. And then you've got your pros, and if you're only in them sort of groups, you're only playing against the same like for like, whereas you're not playing against the pros or training with them as much. So you need to buy time for them, and I think that's the great thing with obviously like with David. I mean, the persisted with him at Forest and give him time, and then obviously he's gone on and found his path. And you talk about players. I mean, for me, one of a couple of the best ones I've played. I say Paddy Madden was just another level.
Yeah.
To be on the pitch with him, I've never seen anybody collide with a football and be so graceful. It was just a joy to see and watch. I've literally had it a little bit back in Hull with a lad called Theodore Whitmore, Jamaican international. We had him and literally little tricks, and he just moved with the ball so well. And it was great to be able to play with Paddy because, as I say, just in games, we give him the ball and he just glide through people. I'm thinking, how are you doing that? How do you learn to do that? Do you know what I mean? It is as daft as it sounds. It is like watching like playing with Messi or Ronaldo, where they're just gliding through players, and it was fantastic at it. And then I think and he's going on and doing well anyway. But more recently, obviously George Grant. I remember I just used to love watching him in training because stuff he could do. Again, was sort of similar in how he saw balls and how he read the ball or where it's going to bounce. And for somebody, obviously, he's not a big lad. He's only short for what he is, but he just always been able to appear with the ball or see the pass, and that side of it. Honestly, in training, enjoyed watching him in games for sure. But in training, it was one that you could just sit and watch, and just, do you know what I mean? Stuff just happened all the time, and it was, again, for such a young player, he had a lot of knowledge in his brain of how to play positions and how to play football. So again, just another good player.
So we spoke a little bit about the championship season. Within 2 years, you ended up at Carlisle. How did all that come about?
So I had a season finished. I had a meeting with Keith Curl, agreed a year's contract. Was all sorted, and then I just started my sports science degree, so I'm looking at my next level with that. And so I was in and out of the club with obviously the physio at the time, John Wilson, because I was doing my degree and was talking about biomechanics and loads of boring uni stuff basically. So I was in the club for probably about 2 or 3 weeks, and I kept saying, "Oh, I've not had normally what happens, season finishes, and then you agree your contract, and then you get a letter sent through just to confirm it." And then obviously, it's just about getting it signed. And so I'm sort of in the club for 3 weeks, and I kept seeing some of the sort of staff behind the scenes, and just said, "Oh, I've not had my letter of engagement through yet." So, "Oh, not a problem. Yeah, sorry, it's been manic, stuff going on." "Okay, not a problem like that." This was for about 3 weeks. Still not had it. And then my agent rung me, literally. I'm one of them with agents. I had one, but I never really particularly used him. But he just rung me and said, "Oh," I was down in London at the time, just with the kids and stuff. And rung me and said, "Mate, your deal's been taken away." I was like, "What?" Do you know what I mean? And said, "Yeah, you have to sort of speak to the chief exec." I said, "Because he's pulled your deal." And so I sort of rung the manager up. I said, "What's happened?" And he said, "Look, mate," he said, "speak to the chief exec." I said, "I'm sorry, I've pushed and pushed for it, but he's adamant it's been changed." And so, I mean, it was one of them. I turned down a couple of clubs as well, sort of League One teams, who ended up getting promoted to the Championship as well that season, and sort of a 2-year security. But I'd done 8 years. Do you know what I mean? I was happy to be there. And so I went and had a meeting. And yeah, sort of was speaking to him, and he was like, "Well, you're getting on a bit, you're getting old now, and what happens if you get injured, and do you know what I mean? It's stuff like that." And I'm like, it's like, I've obviously explained the full situation, and I'm sort of saying, well, I've had 2 really bad injuries, and yet I've come back stronger and fitter than anyone, and I've proved that. So you know what you get with me. I wasn't asking for the world, but I was just asking, like I said, for the deal what we'd sort of agreed on the year. It was just similar to close to what I was on before anyway. And then I said, well, look, I said, I've done 8 years. How about, do you know what I mean, putting a 2-year package together for me? Because obviously 2 years, I'll be 10 years, so I could maybe have a testimonial. And didn't really like that idea, to be fair. And sort of gone away. And then I'd sort of spoke to me, the agent had sort of spoke to me and said, well, look, I've spoke to obviously Greg at Carlisle is really interested in taking you. And to be fair, for me, it was really of genuine interest of sort of going up there, because we played against Carlisle that year. And the way we played football that last 2 or 3 years, like I said, I saw Carlisle doing a similar sort of thing with the way Greg was playing. And I thought, you know what, I should be suited to play in the way they want to play. And I just thought, well, I'm sort of, obviously at the time, the age I was at, I thought, it's a 2-year deal, 32 at the time, and thought, well, hopefully I can extend my career, because I thought, well, I can go there, do well, and you know what, it's a different part of the world. I've only been at Notts, and hopefully enjoy it, and you know what I mean, it's a nice part of the world, and yeah, we'll have something with the family, and yeah, so that's sort of, I spoke to Greg, talked about where we wanted to play, what things we wanted to do, and it seemed great. And I spoke to obviously back at the chief executive Notts and said about it, and he said, well, that's fine, then just decide what you want, you know what I mean, just go then, type thing. I said, because this is it, we're just going to give you a year, a lot less money. And yeah, so for me, I had to think, for the first time maybe, I think I had to sort of think about my family first, if that made sense. And so yeah, so obviously signed and went up to Carlisle. I think, yeah, I'm totally honest, I struggled the first 2 or 3 months, sort of more mentally, really. I feel, I mean, I know we're still speaking, we're good mates, Greg. Obviously got to know him when obviously I came back, but in hand on heart, I knew I was letting him down. It wasn't that I didn't want to be there. It wasn't that, it wasn't for any other reason apart from the fact I was struggling to adapt and mentally be there. And I knew myself, for me, how I've always done things, if things aren't going well, I'll actually train harder. And I think I was probably overdoing it, if that makes sense. Not the fact that I was tired, but I was trying to fix a problem the wrong way, if that makes sense. And it looked like, in some sense, I get the fans up there, they may look as if I didn't care, or it's just, I'm just there for the money, or that side of it. It genuinely wasn't the case. And I think people who know me, it's not the case. I really struggled mentally for the first 2 or 3 months. Started to get a little bit of form back, sort of just a little bit before Christmas. But then I picked up a hip injury, which it's probably, I've obviously done my cruciate. Dislocated my ankle, broke my leg, but this was probably the worst injury I've ever had, because it was, I mean, I won't go into the details of it, but it would affect different areas of my hip area. And some days I'd turn up for training and I could train 80%. The next day I could come in and I could train at 30%. The next day I literally probably one day of the month I'd have I was like, right, I can train fully here. And it was just so debilitating, basically. And it took me a good sort of 12 months to 18 months to get it sort of put right. Physiologically I was fixed, but what I tend to find out, it was sort of more of a neurological thing. And luckily, obviously I know Greg had obviously moved on and had gone to Notts, and I'd gone to see him and chatted to him, and we got on good. And I was seeing the physio, Johnny, who was the physio at the time, just to help me, because he knew my background, knew my stuff, just to try and help me get over it. And then yeah, I'd left Carlisle, and then I didn't have a club, basically. And then it was one of them, I thought, you know what, maybe I've got a jacket in here. Apart from the only thing that sort of really, the big thing why I pushed the last sort of 2 or 3 months to get fit when I knew my Carlisle career was it was finishing, and to carry on playing was the fact of my youngest son Aidan. He was obviously 4 years old at the time, and I remember coming back from a game from Carlisle, a home game. I come back and I'm on the stairs and like give him a hug. You know what I mean? Come back after the journey and say, "Oh, Dad, how did you get on?" I said, "Oh, got beat, 2-1, whatever." And he's gone, "Oh, so did you play? Did you play?" He's like really excited. I went, "Oh, no, I didn't play, mate. I didn't play." He said, "Oh, was you on the bench? Was you on the bench?" And he was like, "No, mate, I wasn't even on the bench." We're like, "Where was you then?" I was like, "Oh, I was in the stands. You know what I mean? I was having to watch the lads play. I was just in the stands. It's tough. I'm not playing at the moment like that." And he literally put his arm around me. He's 4 years old, like he's put his arm around me, patted me on the back, and went, "Don't worry, Dad. Next time, like that." And it literally, honestly, I welled up. You know what I mean? I was like absolutely devastated because I knew it was like he was getting into football at that age, and he was like running around the front room, being messy, being all that side of it. And it was one of them. I just thought, you know what? He's 4 years old. He's got a passion for football. I thought, right, I've just got to get myself fixed and done. And from then, I thought I was going to give up, but he spurred me on to go again. And I obviously spoke to Greg at the time and Sean, and they were looking for someone to take over the fitness coach at the time. I knew Johnny because he knew I was doing sports science stuff and could do that role. And then obviously I was massive thanks to Greg and to Sean for giving me that chance to come back. And so we talk about memories in football, but my favourite memory is obviously sort of when I scored my first goal back at Notts, really, with my lad watching, which was, I scored at Sheffield United, which was a great time to score. He got an absolute buzz off that. But then the Bradford game at home, when I've scored in the 1-1 game, he's in the stand, and literally it's one of the best moments ever as a dad when you got your son in the crowd, and I've gone over, spotted where he was, given him a wave, a little thumbs up, and his face was just beaming like. So it was, that's a great memory for me. Which it's not. I know it's not football related. Right, it's football related, but it's not for all the fans. But for me, as a personal level, it's probably one of the best moments ever, because from there I could see he's got a passion for football. He loves it, loves playing, and I just want him to carry on playing and enjoying football. And it's great that don't mind if he makes professional. Don't mind if he doesn't. He's a good player. He's passionate about football, and that's all I ever had. And that's why myself and obviously speaking to Alan Smith, playing, we were good mates and stuff. And he played so long and stayed at Notts and did that because he just loves football. And I was exactly the same. And for me, it's a dying breed a little bit to some degree. I think some lads see it as a job, but for us, we're passionate behind it. And another person that I've seen that typifies that is obviously Ryan Yates. Ryan Yates for me, although I know he's over the other side playing for Forest, but he's got an old school head, old school mentality. He's got the elements that for me, he trains hard, works hard. He's not flash. He doesn't care about that side of it. He just loves football and doing his job. And it was great to see that actually. Probably my last sort of year or so, there was a few lads who have got that mentality and that way of playing, because for me, that's what football is.
Interesting you say about Ryan Yates, because my lad set up a football team 18 months ago, and Ryan's brother plays for them. And Ryan would come down and watch games. And another one, would you remember him? Colby Bishop. Yeah. So Colby lives in Nottingham. Done brilliantly for Accrington. Done brilliant, and he's been down and trained with Harry's team. I'm not technically sure he's supposed to in lockdown and everything, but So there are people out there, young players, that still relish playing the game and mucking in at all levels. And I guess talking of mucking in, Mark Draper came back as a kit man. I think you must hold some sort of record for being player cook or something. Was it, or something to do with when you were all mucking in together with Sean and Greg? Tell me that.
Yeah. It was, weirdly enough, it was my first. I'd just signed to be, because obviously I was in just training, and then there was talk about wanting me to take the role on. My first day on the job, I remember it was I think it was Friday before we played Port Vale, and literally sat around having a little meeting, as we did, and it's like everybody sat there and they're going, right, little issue, we're not having pre-match meals before the game, we're not going to a hotel, we're not doing any of that, none of that's happening. And it said, so what we're going to do, we're going to have to the lads are either going to have to eat themselves or we're going to have to eat on the bus. They're going to have to bring their own meals. And do you know what I mean? It was for me, it was a surreal bit because it felt as if everybody else knew but me. And like Greg and Sean saying, "Oh yeah," chatting away, and then Greg goes to me, saying, "Well, they could eat on the coach, couldn't they? Could maybe get some stuff made up and put on the coach. But what can I have? What can I have?" And he's just turned around to me and went, "Mike, your missus can cook, can't she? She can do you know what I mean? She can cook, make some food and stuff like that, can't she?" I went, "No." I said, "She's got no chance." I said, I just put me out and went, "I'll do it. I'll sort it. Do you know what I mean? I'll sort it all. Don't worry about it. You're better off me cooking and letting them my wife, to be fair." And so I remember she came home from work and I have got in the kitchen pans stacked up. There's pasta, there's Chinese little pots, and I just sort of made that's what it was. My mum's old recipe type thing of just some little pasta sort of could be served cold. Idea of, do you know what, we can put, like you say, give the lads beans and toast on the coach. Little ideas I put together. I mean, I had a budget. I think I had a budget of about £50 for a pre-match meal. That was my budget. And I remember Laurie. I was ringing Laurie, and Laurie's a chocolate addict, to be fair, and he loves Jaffa cakes. And as daft as it sounds, I'm ringing Laurie. I'm in Asda, I think it was, and I'm ringing Laurie, and I'm going, mate, what price are Jaffa cakes in? Where do you get your Jaffa cakes from? What price are they in? Sort of where you've been, like that. He said, "Well, mate, they're about 50p for a pack of 3 in Co-op, whatever." I said, "Oh, right, great." He said, "What are you on about?" And I said, "Well, I'm in Asda. They're £1 for a pack of 3, but I need to go to the Co-op or whatever it was to go pick these 50p's up because my budget was that tight." And so yeah, I'm sort of doing that, sort of with 50 quid trying to feed the lads, and I'm thinking, you know what I mean? I'm like, the issue I had was that we did it the first day and we beat Port Vale 2-1. So once you do something, it sticks. Do you know what I mean? So I mean, the lads were brilliant. They mucked in with it, as in the fact of, do you know what, they extracted it, they did it. And that's the thing. Sean and Greg were great. They were working on a tight aspect with the money. But I think when I spoke earlier about running clubs, not overspending, spending money in the right areas, and not, like I say, giving time and building the right foundations. They were trying to build the right foundations there, and so they saw areas where they could save the club a little bit of money initially, which actually that would then be invested in other aspects. And again, it was a shame that I mean, as I say, I think it was completely the wrong decision, really, to sort of obviously change that structure, really, because they were working on next to nothing. They were doing what they could to bring in. As I said, I still believe that was sort of one of the biggest mistakes to why we got relegated was getting rid of them. We had 2 tough games over that weekend coming up. I think obviously one MK Dons who were flying, but we knew there was about 8 games to go, whatever it was, 9 games to go. We knew them 9 games. We were all getting geared ready for them 9 games. It was like having when you play a cup game and you have a bonus game when you play an MK, and I think I've forgotten who else it was, who were 2 really tough games. They were just bonus games. If we got some, brilliant. But we were more focused on getting ready for, I think it was a Coventry game, that first game. We was getting ready for that one. And then obviously the Scunthorpe game. There's conspiracy theorists, do you know what I mean? The chief exec moved to Scunthorpe, and then, do you know what I mean? And then obviously prior to going, he's got them sat, you know what I mean? Removed them. I know some of the fans obviously said, you know what I mean, conspiracy theory type thing, but I don't know, I couldn't say. But for me, either way, it was like I've said before, get to the end of the season and then assess the team, because then you're giving a manager the chance to get through sticky periods and learn themselves, because he's a young manager. And so if you've never had that bad period, how do you get through it? And it's the same with Kev at Notts. It's like, well, he's coming from the start when he first came in, had the success to almost make the playoffs, had the success to get us into the playoffs, which for me at the start of the season, that was the remit. Can he get the club secure, build a structure, and playoffs is a bonus, which we did. Yeah, you're disappointed you didn't quite finish automatic, but you know what? First time the club's been in the playoffs for X amount of years. It was great. Do you know what I mean? It's a great achievement. And then he had a little bit of a sticky patch at the start of the season where whether players, do you know what I mean? Like I said, some players maybe of his, some weren't, but he's got basically a brand new set of players brought in because he was told that's what he had to do, rather than, do you know what I mean, probably the older players what we have, which again with some of them I know they're flawed because they're older players and they're at this level for a reason, but you know what you get from them. And I think with teams, that's what you need to know what you get out of them. You can accept the flaws, the negative, the things that they can't do, but you know the strengths they've got make a big difference. But for Kevin and Tom, and they never had that chance to get through a sticky patch. Do you know what I mean? Because managers learn and they have to evolve, and they would have got through it. And for me, again, as mistakes go, that was a big mistake, because end of the season, they wouldn't have been in that position. No way. Not saying they would have been in the playoffs, not saying they'd have been, I don't know where they'd have been, but no way would they have got relegated, because he was the one that stopped the club from getting relegated, same as Sean did, stopped the club from getting relegated. You've now got a relegation battle. You've got two guys who have done that, have got themselves out of it, so they know what it takes to get away from that. Yeah, they've got the sack just because, as I say, some sticky periods.
What about some of your personal highlights for Notts? You know, you've mentioned one or two games. I mean, are there any particular? I mean, you scored the overhead kick at Darlington, wasn't it? I think in the in the championship season when the title was finished. Are there any sort of particular games that, you know, stick in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, that's the Darlington game's always a great game. Scoring over a kick, which I mean, as I said, you wanted success in football, and we secured the championship that night. I'm a bit disappointed that more footage has come out about my goal, because I keep saying it's about 30 yards out, and now I've been proving it now. It was only about 8 yards. But no, it's yeah, great memories for it. Do you know what I mean? That season, there's loads of games you could pick out, because you're playing and you just especially that last 13 games, we were playing so much confidence. It didn't matter if somebody scored against us. We knew we was going to go score and win the game. It's in football is a confidence thing. It goes both ways. If it's down, you're struggling. It's hard. Things going well and positive. You know what you can. Yeah, you can. You just know you enjoy your football even more. So yeah, the championship, I could pick loads of them. But that one definitely tops the ice in there. I mean, like I say, you've got Juventus. Obviously, the game out there. It's such a surreal thing to be happening, but a privilege to do it. As much as it is, I've always got it up on Ronaldo that I've played in that stadium before him. Do you know what I mean? So I've graced the turf before him, which is a great. You know what I mean? It's more related to football. When I can tell me lads that in some respects, and when I'm coaching some of the kids, like, you know, that Ronaldo, I've played there before him. Do you know what I mean? So it's stuff like that which I never dream of. I mean, I always get a stick from Laurie because I say it's my Champions League game. It's like, hey, it wasn't, but it's but yeah, it's a great memory, a great time, and I mean, a little bit from that, I remember training, and we trained at their actual training area, and I remember it's done some setup, done some play, and then literally there's all some of the fans watching, there's some of the media around the training pitch, and we're there, and literally the manager's got the ball. He said, "Right, lads, get in twos." So we've all got in twos, and then like put us in the penalty area. Right, World Cup doubles, threw the ball in the air, off you go. Well, you know what I mean? We're playing World Cup doubles, kicking lumps out of each other, like trying to score, balls like going flying everywhere. It's really tight. It looked horrible like that. And there's all these Italian fans and people and some players like watching, thinking, "What's going on?" Do you know what I mean? And yeah, so it was. I'm just thinking, wow. When you look back now, you're thinking, what? But but no, it's a great memory to be out there. And I always remember thinking all the things that was going on in opening the stadium. It was like, wow, what are we doing here? Do you know what I mean? All the time, I'm thinking, it's like, this is just so surreal, seeing all the Italian legends coming out, Nedved, Capello, all people like that who were there. I mean, personally, again, I've been lucky in football in that respect. I mean, it was my dad's 60th the next day, so I was lucky to get 2 tickets, and I mean, they've been a big part of me from being young, taking me to football, doing that, and for me, obviously, it was great that I could get him out there to go watch it, because yeah, probably. He'd watch me at Torquay, he'd watch me at Carlisle, he'd watch me, do you know what I mean, ends of the earth. And so it was a great little treat for him and my mum to be able to go and yeah, sort of have that sort of moment and see it. So although typical Yorkshireman, I got him I found him a really nice hotel, do you know what I mean, really nice hotel in the area, nurturing, and typical of him, I'll give him the money, because I said, well, look, you do it, so it's on your credit card, do you know what I mean, I'm paying for it. He ended up giving me some money back. He went, I found a better one. Ended up being in some sort of dodgy little B&B type thing like that. I said, you don't have to spend that. We only need the bed. I'm like, oh, Dad, it was a treat. You know what I mean? But it's, but as I say, great parents I've had, because, like I said, just kept me rooted in that respect, and sort of humble and just family orientated.
Here's one. We asked the players, come up with your best 6-a-side team with players that you've played with at Notts, which for you is obviously an awful lot to choose from. So you can't pick yourself. Okay. So 1 goalkeeper, 5 outfield players.
Okay. I know. It was funny. I was to be fair, obviously, I know you sent me this through a little bit, so I've slightly prepped. It was
Yeah.
the other side of it as well. I was thinking I could either do a select over the years, or do you know what? I could do a select of how many of the lads have actually stayed in my guest room, because it's over the years I've had to put a few of the boys up. So it was, I could easily make a good 11 out of that. It's but no, I've gone with it. I've gone to try and sort of go throughout the years I've spent.
Yeah.
It's probably a little excuse for me not picking some players. It helps
Oh,
me a little bit.
yeah, it's a tough one, to be fair. This is the toughest one of the lot for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, for me, let's say I've gone for Pilks in goal.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Very, very good keeper, massively professional, and yeah, to play to the age he got to, and like I said, I think what was he well into his 40s.
40, yeah, he was, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, the thing with that as well, and it was a little bit like my role towards the end when I was at Notts. He obviously did the kit. He did all sort of the kit for the players. He would do all the kits, taking the balls and sort all that side of it. He'd clean the lads' boots. He's doing all that before ready to go play the game on the Friday. I'm like, mate, let me do it. He said, no. I need to do it. Otherwise I won't sleep tonight. You know what I mean? I need to know it's done. And I was the same. It was like, I needed to know, like come about the Thursday, Friday, I would got everything organised, done and set, because the lads go home, train, go to bed. We'd be another 2-3 hours just getting things organised, making sure stuff's done. And yet, like I say, we go out and we play and we run around, and it's for me, yeah, he's been there throughout the years, and it's one of them. He saved us a lot of goals in the times when, we wasn't being as successful in the season, where we were in the dog fights doing it, but you knew he's coming for everything. He'll help you out. He'll make saves. I understand. Like I say, Casper when he played was great. Again, he was similar where, do you know what, someone would go for a goal, you knew, a bit like Hughes going for a goal, he got a chance of saving it. But I think for the longevity, which, as I say, I was with Pilks and his time, he did a lot of good service for the club, and sort of in his first period and when he came back. So Pilks in goal anyway.
Good choice.
I've got one centre half just because from the championship year, which was obviously Spike Graham Lee. Mainly because really good friend in some respects, as I say, but we always used to enjoy it when we was playing games, little mini games we used to have when games going on, which maybe people don't know, but me and him at times, sometimes you'd see us really head the ball miles out of place going for the goalie, or go back to the goalie's hands. Now and again, sometimes in games, me and him would have a bit of a competition, see who could head it the furthest. And so from a goal kick, I said, right, whoever gets the furthest, do you know what I mean? Doesn't have to buy the first round. Do you know what I mean? So like we get goal kicks going on and we go bang, see who could head it the furthest. Not every game, but do you know what I mean? Just when it got to about 2 or 3, I was winning 2 or 3-0, we'd start having a game of that. But for me, he was an all or nothing player. It was unbelievable header of the ball, would win his headers, which was great for me. I'd just sweep up and just play the bits off him. But then we always used to laugh. I think it was Ricky Ravenhill used to say, "Oh, here he goes," and the ball would be going down the line, and you see him come charging across. He went, "Here comes the all or nothing." So basically, he just comes either side for the lad down, or he'd win the ball. Do you know what I mean? But as I say, in a 5-a-side, you need a bit of grit, and as I say, you need a bit of height as well. So, so Graham Lee's in there for me as a centre back.
Okay.
I've got Neil Bishop playing again. Say good rap. It's weird. He's one of the biggest moaners of when you have to do running. Pre-season. Oh, I've got to run. And but you put him on a pitch and there's a ball. He's like a dog. He just does not. He runs more and covers more grounds than ever. But for somebody who doesn't do you know what I mean? Hates running off the pitch, on the pitch, just goes. And he's got some quality. He's got quality with the ball as well, which is great. As I say, this crops up with goals and stuff as well, which is good. And you like that. You need somebody that little bit of needle. No, just make me laugh on a pitch because a couple of times, quite a few times we would play. I think he knew my character where I could take stick, not a problem. Do you know what I mean? He can scream at me, whatever, and I'd absorb it or just say something different. And I always remember sometimes in games, we'd be playing. He'd try and kick the ball 30 yards. He'd give the ball away, whatever. Next minute, he's turning around and screaming at me. I'm gonna go at me. Hey, what are you doing, Eddie? Just screaming, shouting. I'm like, bitch, you've just kicked it out. How was that my fault? And he's just having a right go at me. But then I sort of have a little nibble back at times. Sometimes I'd just laugh at him and say, do you know what I mean? Give him a bit of stick back. But what I learned was, in a way, it might have been a little mechanism for him to switch off. And so he knew he could give me some stick because he was frustrated, knowing the fact that I'm not going to go fight him. I'm not going to, do you know what I mean? I'd just take it. And like, do you know what I mean? Just give him a little quick back, and then he'd be back on it again. Do you know what I mean? But you need that. You need your leaders, need your guys who are going to put the foot in and work hard. So he's in the midfield. One, two. I mean, is that three? So I've got obviously spoke about both a little bit earlier. So Paddy McCourt, again, just unbelievable. Like I say, skill wise, gracefully, just get the ball to him and like I say, make things happen. It's gone quite attacking, to be fair, in some respects after getting rid of Bishop's Spike. But yeah, Paddy was, as I spoke earlier, is a great player, and it was brilliant to play with. And honestly, games going on, and I would just be like that. I'd get caught a couple of times just watching him, like going, watching. I'm like, oh God, I'm still playing, aren't I? Do you know what I mean? It was like that type of moments for a few seconds where you just drift off, and it was an honour to obviously to see him and see it in real life, to be fair, playing actually with somebody with that quality. And again, I put same with George Grant. I just think, like I say, if I was a proper team, 6-a-side team, them two combinations they would make would be fantastic. And again, he's a similar ilk where he could just glide with the ball and make things happen. And I say a top lad, and again loves football, and again, he's sort of stuff he can do with the football, and like I say, with his free kicks or dead balls, stuff like that is. I think he proved it with Notts, and I know obviously he's from the other side to some respect when we had him, but you know what? It was great. He put his all in for the club, which was what you want. And then obviously, finally, you need a goal scorer, don't you? So obviously, Hughes is up there. Simple as. As I say, if you're looking at the team, what I've got, them guys will get the ball to him, and he's just going to stick it in the net. I think my favourite story with Hughesy was I remember I think it was Plymouth away. Craig Short was the manager, and he used to get a little hot sauce. Really, really like ridiculously hot. It one of the hottest, and he loved curries, and he could deal with it, not a problem. But it was literally put it on your tongue, 20 minutes, you're still scratching away. You know what I mean? Trying to get rid of it. It's there forever. And then I remember he would play Plymouth, and he was on the bench, and we used to have pizzas after the game. And he's gone back on, and unbeknown to us, I think him and one of the other lads, he got his hot sauce, and he sort of put it on under all the pepperonis on a couple of the pizzas. And so we're all sat on the bus, and we're eating away. And it was random where they went. And funnily enough, it was, you just saw Craig Shaw, he was in his shooting tie, and he's going, do you know what I mean? Pulling like that. He's like getting hot. You can see his face starting to beam up. He's going, it's a bit hot, this like that. And like we realised where he'd put the hot sauce, and he got the pizza, and lads were just absolutely howling like that. And he didn't know what was happening and stuff. And then obviously found out, and Dave Kevin was there. And obviously, I think you got the hot sauce on, gaff like that. And it was just, honestly, it was brilliant. But that was the thing with that team that year. We just had so many different characters, and it was we'd do pranks, a lot of different stuff. It was good. So again, somebody needing his dressing room, if that makes sense.
So to wrap up, you clearly were part of Notts County for 14 years. So what's life been like post Notts County for you? What are you up to these days?
A little bit of everything really. Slightly freelancing a little bit. I mean, it was one of them. I made a decision at the end. It was, I mean, whether you say it's a midlife crisis or not, I don't know. But for me, I'd been in the game 20 odd years. Let's say getting great with Kev and Tomo, and I say all the people that were there, and it was in my head. I was just thinking, do you know what? I could still be here and could still be in the world of football, and I think I just needed that little bit of a change and just to step away for a bit. My kids were obviously a little bit older, and it's just 24/7. And what I found going into the element of coaching and that aspect, it was a lot of time spent there, and you're away. As that it sounds, you're away at weekends. I mean, as a player, you're in and out. It's a lot shorter. It's great, but as a staff, it's like Fridays. I'm away Fridays, getting back late on the Saturdays if we've got away trips. Sundays. We'd be having warm downs on Sundays, and so you have to be consumed in it. And the standards that Kev had and how he wanted it, we needed to be like that. And for my own professional standards as well, I'd be proper on the lads and make sure things are done and trying to evolve and keep evolving sort of my department and the areas I was in. I needed to step away, to be fair, and I'd sort of initially speaking to my mate Laurie. He's doing his obviously soccer camp and soccer tour business, which we do. It's seasonal, so I still at the moment we do obviously at the moment we can't because of COVID, we can't go anywhere, but I'd go out to America and I'd go see the world a little bit. And like I said, in the past 2 years, I've gone to more countries and states in America and had a lot more sort of time at the weekends with my family, if that makes sense. Being able to do that, which previously it's all taken up. So I'm still doing that aspect of it. I do, as I said, COVID's been, in one sense, has been for myself, has made me do a lot more locally. I've just started doing sort of independent coaching sessions where small groups, like say, just have like hour slots where I'm coaching, basically doing football, just football specific coaching. And the benefit what I have as well is I do, with my conditioning work, I give the lads elements of that as well. So it's not just pure football. The team, I mean, I take my son's team for the last couple of years, been helping out there for a couple of years anyway, even when I was at Notts. And the age to sort of getting out, I can give them the elements that actually, it's like being a link really between the sort of the grassroots level. You've got obviously the academy level, pro level, what I want to be at. And I'm sort of trying to give them that little bit extra from just your grassroots level. So as I say, I've literally from working with a local team, the West Bridgford Colts here, they wanted to do when social distancing training was allowed to come on. I spoke to the guys there and said, look, if you want, I can help put something together where it'll be social distancing done. And yeah, I'd sort of snowballing from that basically, but sort of gone on to doing a little bit more independent coaching because people asking, well, do you mind coaching my lad and helping me out, getting him a little bit better? I was like, well, of course, not a problem. So something sort of developed from there. And yeah, so I do performance coaching and sort of freelance that aspect. As I said, we spoke earlier about being ironic that I obviously dislocated my ankle and broke my leg down in Cornwall, and I went to Truro Hospital. But off the back of that, I'm the sort of their performance coach as a sort of for the club down there. They're obviously in the Southern Premier at the moment. Worked with them sort of from when I left. It was Alex Black, who sort of Alan Smith's agent, had spoke to me sort of a year before about how can I get these lads fitter? Can you help me out regarding it? And so yeah, I've sort of been working with them for just about a year and a half now, just getting them, improving them, helping the lads. And I sort of, it's a nice place to pop down and visit now and again. Their season starts this Saturday. We've just got through pre-season, so I've got that little involvement there. So for me, I've a little bit of everything to some degree at the moment. It's got its pros, it's got its cons, like most things. It's great. At times I've got a lot more family time. I'm getting to see the world a little bit while I still can walk around. So yeah, I'm never ruling out sort of what could maybe go back into football at all, as in sort of more full time. But yeah, just enjoying myself and being in the freelance world at the moment. So I think the way the world's changing at the moment, into it, with all what's happening. So but yeah, it's happy enjoying it, and I'm still. I mean, I was gutted for the playoff final. I watched it, so I was gutted for from, because obviously I was desperate for them to win and get back up. But yeah, I still speak to the guys. I went to a few games last year and watched, and I do enjoy watching football. And I'm lucky that, like I said, my youngest loves football, so I can take him to games and go watch him. Although sometimes it's Meadow Lane and sometimes it's Goodison Park, so I'm a bit one's a bit further away. But otherwise all is good.
Mike, thank you very much for 14 years of great memories. Great to relive everything, and we wish you all the best in the future, and look forward to seeing you when we can, all back at Meadow Lane.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks. Cheers.